Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's night for me. I'm currently in Australia, so I think the time zones are a bit confusing, but I hope you all are having a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. My name is Kauthar Abdulalim, and I'm a producer and founder of Black Sand Pictures. We are based in Australia with strong ties to Kenya, Saudi Arabia, and we are focusing on bold cross-cultural storytelling, which is why today's panel is very exciting for me. The topic for today is Inside Global TV Production, What's Shaping the Future? And I think we all want to know what the future holds because it's such a dynamic industry. There's so many different trends, innovations, and it's sometimes, as producers, very hard to keep track to be having this conversation with you all today. So we will be focusing on what are the forces that are reshaping our industry, from the shifting audience behaviors to the rise of regional content with global ambitions. We'll also be diving into the art of cross-border storytelling. What are the genres that are gaining tractions, how co-productions and creative financing models are also evolving. Because as producers, I think as the world is becoming smaller, we are looking for ways to, tap into the wider global audience rather than just remaining within our territories. So I think it will be interesting to kind of talk about what are the avenues and opportunities to expand and share our content beyond, our own regions. So I'm really excited to be joined by two incredible women who are at the heart of this transformation. We've got Nadia Eliewat who's the co-founder and executive producer at Tar Films in the UAE. And we have Valerie FOUQUES, regional audiovisual attaché at the French Embassy, who's also here in Abu Dhabi. So before we jump right in, I would really love to invite everyone to please type in the chat box. Tell us your name, the company you're from, or what your role is. You could be a writer, director, producer, and also if you can kind of tell us where in the world you're tuning in from, that would be amazing. And then as you guys are doing that, we will kick off with introductions with our speakers.
Nadia, please, would you start?
Yes, sure. First of all, thank you very much, Kauthar, and everyone for arranging this event and for allowing us this opportunity to share some of our experience and knowledge with other people. Valerie and I are good friends. I'm so happy to be with her today, and we've had so many conversations off screen, and it's good to bring this conversation live. And Kauthar, I don't know if you want me to introduce myself briefly. I am basically on the content creation. I'm a creative producer and screenwriter myself. I'm Jordanian Palestinian, based in Abu Dhabi. Currently, I can say based in between Amman and Abu Dhabi. I founded Jordanian My Amman based company Screen Project, through which I've been developing and creating feature films in MENA region. And I've recently, in the past couple of years, joined TAF Films as CAO creative director with my partners in UAE, Sangeeta Desai and Shivani Pandaya. And TAF Films is our new venture through which we are again continue to develop premium content, mostly film, a bit on the TV side. And yes, my specialization is film. More than the TV. I have a bit of experience there, but it's mostly, I would say, yeah, I'm more film focused. Yeah, happy to share some of my experience here.
Thank you so much, Nadia. And we'll also have Valerie introduce herself and what role you play at the embassy.
Yeah, thank you, Kauthar. Thank you, Nadia, and thank you, DICM, for organizing this event. So I'm Valerie, the regional audiovisual attaché, as you said, Kauthar, within the Institut Français for the French Embassy. That means I promote the French expertise here in the UAE, but also more widely in the region, in the Gulf countries. That means I share my expertise and my skills with my colleague based in Qatar, Saudi, Oman, Kuwait, etc., regarding the audiovisual, but cinema, VR, and video games. And my background, I worked for 10 years in the CNC, which is the National Center of Cinema in Paris, and which is the main institution which finance and support cinema, but not only TV program, program from platform, archive preservation, etc., etc. I worked as well with a production company. And yes, I've started also working in the region in Palestine between 2007 and 2009 as a junior audiovisual attaché as well. So I'm happy also to share what the French embassy is able to do and to support here in the region.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I'd love to know from the both of you. I guess you've kind of told us about your role and what you do, but I'd love to hear what is something that really excites you when it comes to, thinking about TV or film production right now, but more specifically, how can we take our stories globally and internationally? Like, what is something like excites you right now in the industry? Or even something that concerns you. But we'll start with the good stuff first.
Yes, yes. So start with the good stuff. On a personal level, to be honest, it's difficult to use the word excite during these difficult times. The world's going through the genocide in Gaza and all. So I'm very careful in using my terminology because I think excitement is a big word with what's happening. And of course, this carries, I think, a responsibility for us as storytellers to makes our responsibility bigger. I think for MENA region, as a Palestinian Jordanian and as a filmmaker who would like to create some sort of awareness through narrative, because obviously I think it seems that narrative prevails. Certain kind of narratives are overpowering others, and it seems that more than ever it's our turn to really establish our presence internationally, globally through our narrative. So that's my personal perspective on it. Now, I think, of course, on the content creation, with the fact that I would say with the fact that there are now the platforms and of course the evolution of the use of online platform have made, I would say, our role a bit easier, or it's easier to access audiences outside your territory, let's say. In that sense, like we've seen some of the major broadcasters like Netflix and others who were a bit hesitant at the beginning about promoting or relying on or commissioning local content with language and use it internationally or broadcast it internationally. Now we're seeing more, I would say, Spanish, foreign language, would say, speaking series and shows on Netflix, Korean, obviously, with Squid Game and the others. So I feel like in terms of content traveling, the fact that there are platforms make our I wouldn't say job as producers, but like we have a bit more space to fit our voice and fit our content in terms of language. Yes, it's still difficult. It's not as easy as we think it would be, but there are more platforms that would allow us to showcase our content globally, other than the traditional theatrical release thing. So does this answer your question? So I don't know if it excites me, but more of like gives us a bit like a bigger opportunity. Concerns are there, of course, and we have this session to talk about them more.
No,
But I would say.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I really appreciate you highlighting. I think it's also important to acknowledge the ecosystem in which we are currently operating in. So thank you for that reminder. And yeah, Valerie, I guess my question to you would be the same. What are sort of the opportunities that, you feel we can tap into right now? What is the boat that we kind of need to jump on in order for us to be able to tell these stories, as Nadia was mentioning, narrative is kind of key right now, and we have the power because we can tell those stories that are so relevant in the global ecosystem. So yeah, if you can shed some light on any opportunities that you can kind of
Yeah.
see.
As Nadia said, I feel that there is like more space for the region to travel abroad, because I see also more interest coming from Europe for the region. It's maybe because since Saudi opened to the world, maybe there is like kind of a positive impact on the region. People are curious about the stories that were never told, or because they don't know very well the region, or there are some cliches, etc. And I can notice that because for 3 editions now, we did implement a workshop, a training program on international co-production. That was for me like a huge need for the region, because I met some producers here, but not like producer like I know with Nadia, which are in charge of a project since the very beginning. That means not only financially, but also they have artistic vision. What are the, what is the international market is requested? What are the expectations from the international market, etc. So I didn't meet so many producers like this in the region and in the UE as well. And what I felt is how you can bring some story to the world without a good producer, because it's a couple. I mean, being a good filmmaker, having stories to tell is wonderful, but you need also to have someone on board, someone who trusts your vision, someone who is able to convince some, I mean, financial players, etc., to be able to tell your story. And also, it's good to have a producer with you, because you need also to be challenged. Sometimes you are in your own story and you don't see that there is some, I don't say, I wouldn't say mistake, but you need to find a compromise with your vision, with the expectation, but with also like the budget that you are able to raise for a film. So I'm kind of excited because now, like, it's the end of my mandate. So I've already spent 4 years here, and I've, implemented a few things. And one of my, the project I'm the most proud of it is probably this training of international co-production, because we found also local partners here in Dubai to be part of the adventure. And I saw now that there is like a first promotion, a second promotion, and soon a third promotion. So I see also a network growing. And this industry, the film industry, is a matter of network. So, and you have to, I mean, you have to know the people. They need to identify you. You need to understand how it works. To whom you can ask a fund, help, etc., etc. So probably it's yes, it's seeing this uh, community of filmmakers and producers growing, which is like something that make me happy. Let's say.
And I love how both of you are so aligned. I think you both kind of touched on like the same thing, but said it in very different words. Is that I think there's this idea of creative like authenticity and what is the creative vision, but there's also the other part, which a lot of filmmakers kind of it becomes a secondary thing, is the business of filmmaking, which is so crucial and important when you are talking about raising finance, finding distribution, and that the things that a producer essentially would do is finding that market and feeding the feedback back onto the creatives in terms of, like what do we need to tweak and adapt in order for us to be able to raise money or sell this content internationally or even within your own market. So I guess my question to the both of you would be, how do producers or filmmakers kind of strike that balance between the creative authenticity of the story and the subject that they're exploring, but also like looking at the realities of what's commercially viable for that project? How can they strike that balance?
I'll take this one first. So Kauthar, what I think is not every project works as an international co-production. So that's the thing. And it takes some experience and some elements that a producer should have to be able to see that. We struggle a bit with directors and creatives, I would say, and I don't want to say creatives as like separate, because I think that producing work is really highly creative as well. But if you want to say the storytellers in terms of like writers, directors, that of course everybody's super excited about their idea and they think the audience for it is the wide world. And the reality is not that. Some stories travel, some stories don't. It doesn't mean that there's a secret formula for that. There isn't like one formula that fits all. But I would say, like for me as a producer, when I read a project, I can tell, or at least I can make a decision whether this has to be financed and produced locally or regionally, or this is a project that could be a co-production with Europe or any other place. One of them will be elements in the story that would be in connection with a certain culture. So some, of course, there's something natural, like the film, part of it happened in France, or there's a relationship with, one of the characters, and like the backstory of the character, stuff like that, that is within the story. And there are other elements that have to do with the uniqueness of the narrative. It's coming from a territory or a country that is not represented worldwide, so audience are excited to discover a film from Somal or Kenya or Yemen, or, Yemen is the last project that is currently in post-production that I'm working on is from Yemen. So there's also this interest, the audience, that we are saturated with content. So international audiences, of course, not in masses, but in general, are looking to watch something that is different than what they're watching usually. So this is the first element. Then if you have a project that already fits this criteria, then there isn't like a lot that you have to do to make this project fit. Because for me, striking a balance is not the right word, because if the project works for international market, it would work for international market. And then it becomes about nuances in the script, something that a writer would take for granted in their culture, think other people understand it. Maybe you need a little bit more explanation, stuff like that. But to strike a balance in terms of making significant changes to a project in order for it to fit, whether commercially or culturally, to please the funds or please, finances from another culture, I think is a bit of something people talk about a lot. I know that it's discussed a lot, and I happen to have projects that I receive in which I can see that filmmakers are trying to force some ideas or for some, themes, that thinking that this is what the audience, the funds want, or this is what international market would, and it's not would want to see, and it's not necessarily working. So again, so in brief, it starts with a project that already fits this criteria. And this could be different, again, it could be different reasons. Then, yes, it becomes a conversation about how to maybe make things more clear or less, or stuff like that. And the same goes with commercial projects, because there are projects that are in nature more commercial. And when I say commercial, we mean that they would appeal or be relevant to a wider audience. And there are projects that are niche in their nature. And again, I have a project that I've been working on in which the premise is niche. So no matter how the filmmaker is trying to push it to be more commercial, in that, I would say classicals, it doesn't work, because you pitch it, the premise is niche. It doesn't mean that it might not attract a wider audience after it's made, because this is something that nobody can guarantee. We've known stories of projects that can travel. So yeah, that's my perspective on.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Valerie, is there anything that you'd like to add in terms of, balancing the creative
Just a
with
few
commercial?
things. I'm not sure there is a recipe to make, like a success. But I used to hear that a good story first can attract an international audience, and a good story is a story that you can find universal in this story. So I think about something which were screened in Cannes, like Goodbye Julia, or those kind of story which are probably very far from the Western world, but they managed to catch the audience in Europe and actually in the world, because the story is strong, the story is good, and probably it's easy to say a good story, but what is a good story? It's also like authenticity, etc. So when Nadia say she felt people force something to be, that means it's not authenticity. So I mean, it's also like very important to have a producer on board as well, to have also this feeling like someone will challenge you, who say, okay, this is not clear for any audience because you come from this kind of like this culture, but for example, the Western audience, they won't get this thing, so you need maybe to explain or to work on it, etc., to make it understandable. Um, so yeah, this is my answer. A good story.
Just on that, do you think as creators, like it's important to factor in the audience, like because obviously you'll have different tiers of audience. You might have a primary audience, which could be your local market, and then your secondary audience could be international. So for those who are kind of on that journey of developing and creating the stories, like obviously we want this to be, when we talk about it being commercially viable, it doesn't necessarily always have to mean for it to be like mainstream kind of
Sure.
content. It could just mean commercially viable in the sense of being able to attract
Yeah,
finance to at least cover the budget of the
yeah.
production. So, like, what would you say in terms of, because obviously, yeah, I guess it goes back to Nadia as well. Like, how do we mold and shape based on like which audience are we catering to? What should we have, what should be at the forefront as we're creating and developing?
I think it depends on the project, because some projects are, I've in my career, I've made projects that are specifically for a certain local region audience. Others are more regional, others are more international. And when you say international, also is a big word. Like, is it more centered toward European audience? Is it more towards Asia? Is it more, and sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail. It's really trial and error. But I usually do not burden my writers with this responsibility, because I think what they need to create is, if I believe in a project and I believe in the premise, and I have the right people attached to develop this project, this is half of the job done. Just you have a trusted writer with a premise that you like, and then it becomes my responsibility as a producer to give notes, creative notes, that would direct it in a certain way to appeal, but not just burden the writer, say, no, this should cater for that audience, or but that's my way of work. I'm sure that other people function differently. And also, you're talking, it depends on the level of experience the writer has, because some writers have more experience than others, and they do this naturally, others don't, right? So how to strike this balance, as I said, that when a producer, and I'm going to talk about a producer point of view, because once
Mhm.
we talk about global and financing, you assume there's a producer attached, right? So it's not a creator by themselves trying to sell their story.
Yeah.
I would say, once a producer is attached to a project, first of all, the producer has to decide where do I want to focus on, which audience I want to focus on. And based on that, I would tap into the right financial resources around that, audience, and expand from there. So and then the feedback or whatever relevance. But again, I'm always against stretching a story to try to fit into two different models, because again, some stories fit naturally, some stories simply don't. Um,
Yeah.
so that's,
Nadia, I would like just also to mention something you told about the development. And for me, this phase is crucial in any project. And it takes time to develop a good project. We say like to have a good story, but maybe part of the answer to have a good story is also to have a development phase, which is really important. So there are many labs, training, etc., where you can benefit from, like top level experts, screenwriter, producer, who can give you feedback on your project, and they can guide you also to find solution or to develop in a right way your story, because at the beginning there are so many options for a scriptwriter that you need to choose. First of all, you need to try, you need to experiment, and this phase, the development, for me is so important, because as soon as a development is well done, I mean, it's not easy, but it's probably more
yeah,
easy to get some funds, because the story, the script is good enough to to be able to apply to, I don't know, the Red Sea Fund, to the DeFi, to the CNC, etc. And there are so many, not so many, but there are labs with the Red Sea Lodge, for example. There are also a lab with the DFI, which is Cumra. So in the region, you have like some options, not only in Europe, I mean, and it's good also to know that things exist here.
Yeah.
and I just want to pick up, just say a bit more about what Valerie is saying about development. And it's very crucial, not only for film, also for TV, because the platforms available in the region are very, very limited. When it comes, and we're talking about broadcasters that would support the type of like international series or series that from different parts of the world, not international, but like I would say, like a more maybe dating, maybe not, I would say, local TV type of series, and that is NBC, Shahid, and you have Netflix. Now there are other players like Stars Play a bit, maybe View, but not we don't have really a clear mandate on commissioning content. So imagine the load of projects. I'm talking series now, pitch decks that these platforms receive, right? So if your pitch deck does not stand out, you can't just have an idea and send it and think that I will develop it with the commissioning. So more and more and more is being requested, by more development is being somehow becoming mandatory for filmmakers. And it is a hassle, because for filmmakers or creators, writers, there's an issue here, because they need to fund themselves to be able to develop. So is it a concern? Is it like a bit of a, I would say, issue, especially in the region? And for us at TAF Films, this is why we created our company, basically, because we wanted to create content in which we really focus on development before we go out and start pitching. And I agree with Valerie, the more advanced your material is, and unfortunately, the more likely it will be accepted in a platform. So again, also all these platforms that are available are very competitive. So I'm not trying to depress people, but just being realistic, because I know that I receive lots of filmmakers say, yeah, but we applied and we didn't get in, but the material is so weak. So it's not a magic pill that I apply and they will help me develop, even if you have a great idea, because ideas are everywhere. It's just how you translate this idea, how you take it forward a bit more for people to be able to visualize it as a narrative, whether in series or in film.
I'd like to, if possible, for us to have a bit of a sidebar, little cheeky chat. I just want to kind of pick your brains on this one particular series that was commissioned by a streamer. Netflix Mina commissioned it for the region, but it became much bigger internationally. And I'm talking about the famous Dubai Bling. So I wanna know just your thoughts on like reality TV shows, trends, genres. Like from my anecdotal like research that I did while I was, in the UAE, and I was just asking local audiences like, have they watched Dubai Bling? Because it internationally, like I feel like everyone within my circle kind of watched that series, but I found that locally not many people really watched it. So I'm really curious to kind of just hear your thoughts on reality TV shows and this kind of mainstream content that maybe was intended for a local audience but kind of became bigger internationally. And you don't have to reference that particular show in specific, but you can talk more generally.
Valerie, you want to start or shall I start?
Yeah, because I've watched only 2 episodes because I wanted to get to know more about, where I was based. So it was at the beginning when I started my position here as audiovisual attaché. So it was, I think, end of 2021 or beginning of 2022, and I couldn't watch more than 2 episodes. I can understand that maybe it's a commercial success, but it's also something that spreads some cliches, etc. For me, which is something that I care about, because Dubai and people in Dubai are not only those people. And I feel also with scripted reality is like they make people think that it's the reality because it's kind of documentary, but it's super scripted. I mean, it's like a drama. It's like a soap. So I it's not my cup of tea, let's say. But I've watched it because yes, it's known everywhere. And when I come back to France, people ask me, "Have you watched Dubai Bling?" Because it's the only program they know about the region, which is for me like so. I'm a bit, sad because there are so many stories that they can grab on Netflix or anywhere else, and they watch this kind of program, which is for me not the best promotion
I,
of the country or.
I
Yeah,
guess the
sorry, go ahead.
success. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm just interested, like, I think what's really interesting about shows like that is that the success of such kind of films or TV shows and content is dictated by audiences. And the reason why, they get recommissioned for multiple seasons is because there's a market for it. So how do, I guess, coming back to producers and creators, looking at what's happening within the space and what people are actually binging and yeah, essentially watching, how do we kind of reconcile with what we may want to do creatively and what we feel is more meaningful and authentic versus what commercially the buyers will pay for because that's what brings them the eyeballs.
So listen, I think this question has many, many elements, and I'm going to try to address most of them. First of all, I think that commissioners commission um, Dubai Bling and they commission something else, right? So it's not only Dubai Bling. Dubai Bling is one of the shows that got very successful, and it's totally understandable. And I'm going to touch, on the points why I think this show in particular was very, very successful. Then here the question is, depends on your content strategy as a company. Like as a producer, with all due respect to Dubai Bling, but Dubai Bling is or other type of similar style is something that TAF Films is not interested in, right? So it depends on what kind of values and what kind of values you carry as a company in terms of the content you want to create. And I'm not saying that it has no value. It has its certain type of value, but is your value purely commercial? Do you care about creating certain content with certain characteristics? So this is a question to a producer and what content strategy they have for their own company. So this is one thing. I think that you can only have one Dubai Bling, and it's not a trend, like, because it has very specific characteristics that has to do with the city, with, and the stereotypes that Valerie are saying. And I think it was successful because of the stereotypes. I've been I'm married to my husband is half Kiwi, so we go to New Zealand quite often, and my kids were born there, so we connected to, even when you go to New Zealand, which is, I love this country, but it's the end of the world, and you go on a beach, on a isolated beach somewhere, people know Dubai. But they know Dubai as what? Do you have us? So do you have a Ferrari and a Lamborghini? So the stereotype is there. Then comes a show that shows the world exactly what they want to see from Dubai.
Mm.
So of course it's going to be a boom. Of course people will love it. You know, because it shows them exactly what they're not living and what they can see. Personally, like whether personally you watch it or don't watch it, I handled 5 minutes of it. Like Valerie is amazing. She handled 2 episodes. I sat next to my sister, but again, I can't it's no offense to anybody, but it's a content that is made with a certain purpose. I know all people around me watched it and criticized it again, but they still watch it. But it doesn't matter. They're watching it, and so they're counting. The algorithm sees them, right? Um, I think it's a very smart show from a business point of view. I think it's brilliant. You know, the producers, I think, had an amazing idea and managed to, or the creators, you know, the team, because they knew what they could present in a way that will travel. So, but back to what you as a producer decide to pick up, it really goes back to your content strategy and to what you want to create, what kind of legacy or what kind of, you know, a profile you want to build. Legacy is a big word, but like more of a profile you want to have for your company.
Mm. And you touched upon algorithms, and I think that kind of leads me to asking, I think you also spoke about earlier, establishing your presence has become easier because of the online platforms that we have access to, whether it's like, YouTube and, similar kind of platforms, TikTok as well. I made a series on TikTok, which was commissioned by TikTok for season 2. And yeah, I guess, finding ways to get to the audience directly, like how do you think producers can leverage these tools that they have in order to produce content to tell those stories and build and find their audiences?
I think, I think the tools are there, the tools are there. It goes back to, I think, your content strategy and what kind of mandate you have as a company to create. And definitely we have more options, short forms for social media, if that's your cup of tea and it's really good. There are others that have to do with the mainstreamers. I don't know how much I can say here, because how they can leverage, you can create a show if that's your interest. Of course, you can develop a show for social media, or develop a show for YouTube, or develop a show for your local broadcaster. It really goes back to what kind of content you want to create and what interests you from both your business your business plan, your business model, or your creative profile.
And it's also interesting, sorry, Kauthar, it's also interesting to see how platform managed to, make emerge some new and emerging filmmakers. I think about, for example, Telfaz 11 in Saudi. They started 15 years ago, spreading their sketch, short film, etc. on YouTube. And it's how they built their community. Now they are like as known as the Beatles in Saudi. They are really a rock star, and they started on YouTube. And it's also a place where you can get more freedom as well, because there is no the same regulation, for example, with the cinema, the theater, etc. So it's also a good way, I think, for any filmmakers to, to experiment, to start. And it's also a good exposure, so because you can touch so many people on a platform.
But also, I think Tilfaz 11 is a very interesting case study, because also it emerged out of need. It wasn't forced. It wasn't like the guys came together. They have lots of amazing ideas. The same with the show Masamir. I don't know if you've seen it before. It started on YouTube. I used to teach at the American University in Dubai, filmmaking for 7 years, and I used to use their sketches, their little Masamir videos, just before even Saudi opened up for film. In my classroom, because these talents needed a platform. They found the platform, made use of it, and then it blew up, it expanded, it developed. But it was not, the thing is, it wasn't forced. people were not forcing this. It's just, you know, it's really emerged out of need, out of an actual authentic narrative that needed a platform to be told from.
Yeah.
They were not copying anyone. That's the other thing. They were not copying. And this is what, you know, scares me when not scares me, but like, you know, when we talk about algorithm, because, you know, when you pitch to, obviously as a producer, you know, that you go to Netflix or, you know, whatever platform, and they tell, but our content study changed because the algorithm is telling us so and so, but you know, last month you were, or a couple of months ago, you wanted women content, now you want male content, you know. So the algorithm, I don't believe in the algorithm, to be honest, personally, because I think it's dictated by so many other options that are not human. There's a difficult way to actually monitor them for me, other than the numbers. I know there's some truth to it, of course, but basing content strategies and giving content to the world based on algorithm, I think, is one of our biggest issues, because then you end up with lots of shows that look exactly the same. People, like, you know, you have Squid Game, or you have whatever, one show goes viral or becomes popular, and then everyone is going to create the next Game of Thrones and the next Squid Game and the same genre. But then people start to, so my, you know, I'm just touching on that just to say, on trending genres, yes, there could be a genre that they take, but like, after, you might start developing something 6 months after, one year after you're ready to pitch, it has changed already. The algorithm is telling us something else. So it's really a bit tricky.
And can I just ask, in terms of, when we started this conversation, we were talking about I guess, the current situation that's happening globally in Palestine. I've personally found myself, there's certain types of content that commissioners will not touch because they're like, we want to be neutral on a particular issue. How do you kind of navigate those challenges, when you have a story that might be perceived as a political issue, even though it may not be, it's a human story. Like, how do you navigate those challenges? Because that's something that I would imagine would be so relevant to people like us creating content about the current situation in the world.
Yeah, to be honest, this goes, it's a problem definitely for Palestine and Gaza, and it has been a problem for other regions as well, where there is conflict, and the power is so strong with, with the money, financing. I would say the financing coming from certain countries that have so much power, they don't want certain influences, they don't want backlash. I would say look for, there are two ways around it. One way is definitely to try to navigate the content itself in a way that still represent what you want to say in a smart way, if you want it on a major platform. But that's a compromise that you'll have to, make, and smart, in a smart way. The other way is to try to find other ways to finance it, find other outlets. Maybe it doesn't need to be on Netflix, it doesn't need to be on one of the major platforms, but could go a different route. And I would try, especially with projects that would deal with a sensitive political issue. I think it's also smart to try to make your story appeal. I have a similar project that I've been, working on, in which you say what you want to say without saying it basically openly, but people feel it through a human story, through a well-written narrative, through well-developed characters that become relevant and touching and relatable, in a way that the readers would say, "Oh, wait, I can't read the politics into it." Or even if they read, they will be more excited to jump on board the project. So really, it depends on the project. But I would say don't give up on these projects. They're the most important. They're the most, really the kind of projects that make a difference. And just find a way to make them without compromising so much, but with, in a smart way, that
Yeah.
the idea is just to make him happy at the end.
Yeah. Valerie, are there any thoughts that you'd like to share on that?
Nadia said everything, and I won't add nothing about this because she said it.
Yeah. We do have two questions from the audience. So one, I guess it's for you, Valerie. We have a question asking where we can get more information on the workshop that you mentioned, the International Co-Production Workshop.
Yeah, so there is a website called Produire au Sud. Probably, I don't know if someone can type it, but it's a French word, Produire au Sud. So they have a website in English, in French, where you can get to know more information. And by the way, we will launch the next edition of Produire au Sud in September. So we will spread the word on our Instagram, social media, etc., to be able to, to let people know about the third edition of the workshop.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And the second question is, I guess maybe this is more for you, Nadia, and Valerie, you can also contribute. Could you share how AI is integrated into your production process and what innovative role it plays?
To be honest, it still doesn't for me. More about like organizational stuff. So I use AI for admin work and stuff that organizational, maybe just putting all notes, combining notes together into one document. Still, I wouldn't integrate it so much because it's not that I use ChatGPT. And when you say AI, probably I don't know if they mean other, and there are platforms that I'm using to sometimes assess projects and do projects report for sure, but that doesn't mean that I don't read the project. So I still read the project and I rely on some reports to give some ideas. I'm still very reluctant on using it in terms of developing a project because I still feel, I don't know, I'm 41, born in, the 80s. So I'm not from that generation that feels like AI is the solution. I'm still reluctant. That doesn't mean that, again, I don't use it, but I still feel, even on the projects, on the things that I do, is I catch a lot of mistakes. Like I have a lot of fights with ChatGPT sometimes about their, trying to change things that I didn't say. And so, or, playing with some narratives. And I'm not saying that it's not useful. It's extremely useful on the admin level, I would say. But on the creative level, I'm quite hesitant. And I use it with really absolute care.
Yeah.
Or for reports, like more really for reports, stuff like that.
And I think as any tool, you need to use it properly. And for me, it's the beginning. So it's a new tool, a new game, a new toy, for everyone. So I see incredible things starting, because you don't know how to use it. So it's funny, etc. But I think the main issue would be soon, and actually, I think it's currently the issue, is the regulation. I mean, who is the author of something, like someone who give the script or someone who give the order to make it like this, or this is the AI who is now the new authors. So probably it will be the issue for me. So who is the main creator with the AI?
Yeah. And those are active discussions that we're having constantly in the industry as, technology kind of evolves. Um, there's another question from the audience. Is international interest in Arabic content a trend or a long-term shift? And are global co-productions the way forward?
Global co-production, the way forward, I don't think it's a way forward for any project. Again, it's based on project, based on merits, based on certain elements that a project has to have for it to be eligible or make sense as an international or global co-production. Not every story travels, and not every story needs to travel anyway. So let's just be clear on that. So one other, of course, we didn't touch on that, but one major reason for reaching out globally is financing for the Arab world, because there's a lack of financing, of course. So like it's not a self-sufficient industry. Maybe it is, as you know, like everybody knows in Egypt, but other than that, it's not a self-sufficient business. I mean, running business when it comes to when we talk about outside the Ramadan series and the stuff we're talking about, filmmaking in particular, and series as well. So yes, we do reach out to get more financing. Does that mean that you as a producer make more money? Not necessarily, because this money your European partner will get, but the film or the project is going to get made. So the interest is not a trend, I would say. I think it has always been there somehow, but it's increasing now for different reason. And one of them is just everybody's looking for a new story. Like everybody's looking for the next hit. So, and if you don't have this story within your community, within your country, you reach out to find it somewhere else. Certain topics, certain areas are exotic. You know, let's just be honest about that. Like a territory that you've never seen on the screen, or an area you can't actually go and visit physically, but you can see it on the screen. So there are different elements. So I don't think it's necessarily a trend, but certain topics become a trend, yes. Like war in Iraq and Afghanistan became a trend. War in Syria became a trend, yes. In that term, yes. But like in general, like to generalize and say that the European or whatever international are interested in the Arab content as a whole generally is not a correct statement.
Okay. And Valerie, would you agree to that? And also, if you can touch upon, I guess, interest in, yeah, Arabic content. Is it, sorry,
Yeah.
the global productions, is it a way forward?
So regarding maybe the Western French industry, the Western film industry, and the French industry, maybe there is kind of a trend, because for many producers in France, coming to Saudi, Qatar, or in the UAE, it's also a way to get more funds, to get new opportunities, financial opportunities. So first of all, like when you have to set up a project, etc., you need a budget. So when there is more opportunities, you are attracted, first of all. So yes, there are stories relevant, interesting, that were not told to the world until now. And I saw that with also Series Mania. Because, for example, it's funny because in 1 hour I have a meeting with Series Mania Festival, and they are actually thinking about implementing a residency program for MENA region, which is new, and probably it's also related to what happened in Gaza, with the opening of Saudi, with so many things happening in the region for the last 5 years, that that's the reason why they are more interesting about this region, because they are curious, because they don't know. I told you, when you don't know something, there is two attitudes: or you want to know more, or you ignore. So the good thing is people want to know more. Like, I mean, the industry wants to know more about the region and the stories about the region.
So I guess what I'm really hearing is that I think now is kind of the time for stories from that part of the world to really like shine. It's like really the moment now, because the world is looking, the world is listening. I know for a fact myself from Australia, like there is so much curiosity in that region in particular. And I'm probably one of the few producers that's actively trying to find those connection points and build those bridges between Australia and the, MENA region. So I feel like, yeah, if there are any producers who are currently based in MENA, I would say like honestly, now is the time to really hone in your craft, like really believe in your stories and champion them, and you will find appeal globally for those kind of stories. And there are many pathways that you can
Mm.
explore as producers to distribute that content and raise finance. There is a challenge though when we talk about international co-financing, maybe not so much for feature films, but maybe TV productions, is that a lot of international, say, broadcasters will ask, what is the Canadian connection or Canadian angle or the Australian angle or the British angle to the story? And how would you, I guess, navigate that as a producer from the MENA region? Because if something isn't authentically connected within the story, how do you then,
Sure.
build those
And
bridges?
with TV is also quite is interesting, because I was having conversation about it last week with a friend producer of mine, is just also the budget levels are completely different. So if I am a MENA-based producer and I have a project that I think could appeal, first of all, language is an issue because, you know, TV, we're talking TV broadcasting, you're talking about main language is an issue. I mean, to get a co-production, I can always make a good Arabic speaking series and then have it acquisition, have it sold in acquisition, right, for an Australian TV station for them to show. But will the Australian TV station invest in it? Why? Why? It's cheaper for them, even like from a business point of view, to buy it ready. And then the other issue would be that if I want to co-produce a project, a series that, let's say, still appealing, has that connection with the UK, whatever, and then you go to a broadcaster and you say, okay, I want to co-produce with you, that means like, I don't know, 50-50. The budget level of producing one episode of a certain show in the UK or in Australia is much higher than in the Arab world, because we go back to the point, we have like 2 or 3 main players in the region and they control the market in terms of prices and all of that. So I can't, like, maybe the maximum with an episode of a certain, I don't know, of course the budget vary, but let's say like an episode that is 150,000, $150,000 an episode, while you have a British broadcaster who would put $1 million on it. And then I have to raise 500,000, but I can't because my broadcasters won't pay that much. So that becomes an issue with co-production for TV. It's not the same for film. Film is different, but for TV, co-productions are really quite complicated in that sense.
Yeah. Nadia, there's a question for you from the audience. What is your next big project? Is it a movie or a series?
It's not big. I make little projects. I enjoy my projects small and exciting. So I have a project now in post-production that is just announced. It's going to be in Final Cut Venice. We just announced it, called The Station. So yes, this one, it's it's co-production with Europe. We got Satan Say for it and others, but it was a really successful model on European co-production. We co-produced with Netherlands, France, Germany, and Norway. Jordan as the main company, my company. We have a slate at TAFMs. We have a slate of projects. So we're developing 2 projects for Saudi talent, Mushtaba Saeed. These really fantastic projects. One set in Saudi, one set in Berlin. And we do have a series in development as well. We're currently developing. And we have other stuff going on, but in general. Yeah, thanks.
That's incredible. Congratulations. Looking forward to seeing the progression of all of your projects.
Thanks.
And Valerie, I'd love to hear from you. What's next for you after you wrap up at the French Embassy?
We want her to become a producer. After resting, we want her to become a producer. That's my plan for her.
We'll see. Yes, I need a rest because those 4 years were amazing, but also very busy. I did a lot, and I'm very proud of it. And to live this, to have this, professional assessment is great. So I need also to take time to know what I want to do, and probably producing could be an option for me. Yeah.
Exciting. That's incredible. I guess this is we're at the end of the session. Time just flew by so quickly. I feel like I didn't even get through half the things I wanted to talk about, but I feel like your insights were really incredible, and I hope that they were helpful for a lot of the audiences that joined us tonight. So yeah, thank you. And if you have any closing remarks, any final kind of messages that you'd like to share, please feel free. This is kind of like a last opportunity to say anything that you'd like to our audiences.
No, I just want to thank you for the conversation. I agree. It was really, really smooth and nice. And I hope some people find it useful. If I want to say something, I would just say, whether you're a writer, you're a director, you're a producer, just stay true to yourself, really. Stay true to yourself. Don't follow trends. Of course, you want to be smart about how you, but really just we're in a creative field. We don't work in banks. We don't, all due respect, we just, we don't work in a day job. You have this opportunity to tell a story you want to tell. I know it's not easy. It's extremely, extremely difficult. But really try to stay true to what you want to say.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and when there is a will, there is a way. The way can be long, but
Very long.
yeah,
Very
keep
long.
the face, keep the face.
Yeah, agree.
I totally agree. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, I personally really benefited from this conversation, and I thank you both for your time. And thank you to everyone as well for attending, for sharing your questions. And in case you didn't get to watch the full session, there will be a recording of this webinar, which will be published on the DICM website by next week. So keep an eye on that. And yeah, there will be another webinar on September 17th, on the 17th of September. Sorry, it's like past my bedtime here in Melbourne, so I
You're
can't
doing really well.
Thank you. So the next webinar will be From Script to Screen, How Local Writers Are Shaping the Next Blockbusters. So yeah, I think I'll join that one because I want to
Yeah,
know.
me too. Me too. I would love to join that. Sounds really fun.
Yeah, and lastly, in case you don't know already, the Dubai International Content Market will be taking place from the 4th to the 5th of November this year. And for more information, you can visit the website dicm.ae. So yeah, thank you everyone. That's it from us. I hope you have a lovely rest of your Wednesday afternoon. And yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
Kauthar.
Thank you, Kauthar.
Thank you. Bye. Bye everyone.